Hello, folks. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to do a little bit of administrative stuff right now. I'm going to log into the LinkedIn room and the YouTube channel. These are the two places that we're streaming from today. We use an encoder here. We use StreamYard, which I love and highly recommend. And we also use YouTube. So it simulcasts to YouTube and it simulcasts to LinkedIn. We just want to make it like as easy as humanly possible for people to reach us. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and put those in the chat. I think that they're going to aggregate those comments over to StreamYard where I'm coming in live, but we will see. So we're doing something a little interesting. And for those folks who are still kind of coming in, I'm at the One Ed Tech Conference in New Orleans. So I was trying to decide, do I stream live from the actual show? And then I thought, this is not sponsored. So I'm going to go ahead and just separate those two things. I am at the One Ed Tech Conference. So if you happen to see me, say hi. I've already seen a lot of good friends. I love going to these things. It's just nice. It's a little bit of a blind date being, on the computer all the time. We all talk to each other. We work in rooms. We go to webinars. But the opportunity to see each other, like in the flesh, in person, is just a rare opportunity that I seize every chance that I get. So if you are at the One Ed Tech Conference here in New Orleans, the Digital Credentialing Summit, feel free to say hi. This is kind of overlapping with some of the sessions at 1 o'clock. So if you have somewhere else, you want to be in a live session, you want to be present, feel free. We're going to publish this again on YouTube and on LinkedIn after the fact. All the resources that we share here, we're also going to be putting on our website and we'll share on LinkedIn. So all the usual channels. So if you connect with us on LinkedIn, go there. If you're more of a newsletter person, we actually publish a monthly newsletter through LinkedIn. I'm going to publish there as well. Or you can head to our website. So you can go to microcredential.info if you want more info on microcredentials. I know, pretty good domain. We also have microcredential.xyz, or you can go to micro-credential-multiverse.com, or you can just Google us. Our SEO is pretty good. We usually come up somewhere near the top. So I'm going to pause and we're going to transition to actual kickoff mode. So let's do that right now. Okay. All right, so we are officially starting. And today we were going to actually have a guest, but our guest had to call out kind of at the last minute. So I had to pivot a little bit. And we've been getting a lot of really good feedback about our glossary recently. And it was actually shared by the Skills Forward team in their most recent newsletter. So shout out. Thank you so much for sharing that out. This is a collaborative open glossary that we're going to be covering today during the stream. And the whole idea is to really get everybody on the same page. So whether you're new to micro-credentialing or you've been here for a while, I strongly encourage you guys to check that resource out. It's one of the most popular resources on our website, and it really gets at the heart of the big question that I get more than any in the space, which is, what the heck is a micro-credential? And this is kind of like this is an initiative question that leads to other questions like, what is a learning pathway? What is metadata? What are all these things? And I think to get everybody on the same page is really to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. So that's what I'm going to spend time on today during the stream. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to a different view here and move us along. So first of all, if you have never met me, my name is Rob Bajer, and I've been in the micro-credentialing kind of skills-based digital badging space for about 10 years. I came to the space after a career in education. So I was a high school science teacher, and I really just thought that we could do a much better job of recognizing granular skills and competencies. And rather than focus on my learners at the time, I was really focused on my fellow educators. So I helped launch the first educator micro-credentialing platform with Digital Promise. I also contributed to the development of the National Education Association's digital credentialing platform. And then since, over the last 10 years or so, I've probably had my hand in a dozen or so different platforms, working groups. I mean, you name it. I'm a fixture of the space. I'm passionate about it, and I'm excited to have you join me today. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's go into it for today. So first of all, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Micro-credential Multiverse, and our mission is to unite learning experiences with career outcomes. And that delightfully general mission lends itself to a variety of different kinds of programs and projects and products, and we love helping folks go from idea to implementation, and that's really where we specialize. But another thing that we do is just kind of being kind of a good collaborator, um, a good member of this space that really has a lot of, I mean, just some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with. So anytime anything new is happening, something exciting is happening, there's been agreement on something, I like to share those things out. So we have resources on our website, we have a LinkedIn, we have a newsletter, we do podcasts, we do micro-credentials in a minute. So if you have a question about a micro-credential, you might be able to get your answer in about a minute or so. Um, so lots of good stuff. Also, we do Micro-credential Mondays. So the first Monday of every single month is Micro-credential Monday. So today's Micro-credential Monday happens to fall on the same day as the One Ed Tech Conference. So like I said, that's where I'm calling in from today. And by the way, the Wi-Fi in the hotel is holding up. Hopefully it continues to hold up by the end of the stream. If so, this is an unofficial, totally non-endorsed and non-sponsored shout out to StreamYard. So if the stream continues on the up and up, then all the praise goes to StreamYard. That's our encoder of choice. Okay. Okay, so how can you join Micro-credential Mondays? So there's a lot of ways to join. Like I said, after recordings, we put them online. So if you miss the actual live synchronous event, no worries. YouTube, LinkedIn, our website, that's where you can find all the recordings. But it really is the first Monday of every month, and we do 1 o'clock Central Time. I actually live in Dallas, Texas right now. It's where our business is based out of. But you can reach us on LinkedIn or YouTube or on our website at microcredentialverse.com. And like I said, not sponsored, totally unofficial, but we are at the Digital Credential Summit 2024 this year, and we're live streaming. Not necessarily from the event. Technically, it's upstairs from the event in my hotel room, because this is more of a controlled environment, sound and hustle and bustle aside. I just wanted to make sure that the stream went well. So if you're at the event, feel free to say hi. I look forward to seeing all of you guys when I go back downstairs after the stream. All right. So, like I said, we're going to differentiate this conversation, and we're going to check the comments, make sure we don't have any comments coming in. But we're going to differentiate this conversation for this particular audience. So, there's some things that I've prepared to talk about today, but if I don't cover something or you have a burning question, throw that in the chat. You can also comment on our company page, website, smoke signals, you name it. But if you have a question during the stream, just put that in YouTube if that's where you're logged in from, or in LinkedIn, and it'll get pushed directly to my little interface here. You can't necessarily see the interface, but it's very clever, and I can answer comments like as we go along. And I'll save some questions for myself at the very end. So if I didn't get any questions from you guys, I've already thought about some good questions. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so we're going to differentiate. Add your questions. Okay, so we're going to break this into a few parts. So the first part is really the place that I like to start when it comes to micro-credentials in general, and on most projects specifically, which is the why. Why micro-credentials? So just a little bit of food for thought here. And let me make sure. I'm going to change my screen there. All right, so here's a little bit of food for thought. So I actually am one of these people that I have pivoted between jobs. Every 3 to 5 years, I'll go from I was a laboratory scientist, and then I pivoted to an educator, then I pivoted to working at nonprofits, and then I pivoted to working at a for-profit technology company based in Eugene. We all love Badger. I had the um, privilege of working there. It was a really great team. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And then I pivoted into an executive role. So I was the vice president of product for about a year or so. And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to start my own company. This is my path. This is my learning pathway. And I thought, man, I've got like chronic ants in the pants. Why can't I stay in a job? But then when I started doing real research on why micro credentials are a really good fit and why they're an emerging technology trend, it's captivating and compelling for lots of different client personas. Try to say that 5 times fast. It's really because of the state of the economy broadly. So the average worker in the United States is going to change careers 5 to 7 times during their working life. So I thought that I had this unique condition, this like chronic ants in the pants, but really, most workers, most adult learners, workers in the country are going to switch jobs 5 to 7 times. And this could be an internal pivot. This could be a pivot to a different industry or a different sector, but it's actually more common than you might imagine. In fact, a third of the whole workforce switches jobs every year. So they've got me beat. I'm in the average at this point. I think I'm on job 6 or something like that. But if I pivot, a few more times, I might find myself in a camp uh, of a third of people that really switch jobs every 12 months. So why micro credentials? Well, micro credentials are not only a solution for this dynamic kind of evolving pipeline challenge, but 95% of executives say, and I was one of these executives, that it's somewhat or very challenging to find employees, especially entry level employees, with the appropriate skills and talents. And this long standing impasse is generally regarded as the skills gap, that they're not really walking into the job with the skills that you need for them to do the job on day one. So, this is another reason why micro credentials are a particularly compelling proposition, increasingly so, especially over the 10 or so years I've worked on it. There have been a few inflection points, and this year is certainly one of them. So let's first take a look at some of those skills that I mentioned. So MZ Burning Glass, aka Lightcast, they did a research study, and these are three uh, quantitatives, numbers from there that I think paint a really good picture. So the first stat is that 1 in 3 of the top 20 skills requested for the average US job have changed, a third of them, since 2016 to 2019, and then again between 2019 and 2022. This is a regular occurrence. In fact, 1 in 5 of the new skills that are requested for the average US job is entirely new. So think January, right? Everyone started talking about AI. Everyone started talking about ChatGPT and what does this mean for skills? What does this mean for workers? What does this mean for businesses? You're not alone. Every year, 1 in 5 of the skills that are listed on the average job application are brand new skills. So even if you are skilled right now, you're going to continue to learn throughout your life. And we'll talk about that to stay competitive. And this goes for businesses and institutions as well, not simply individual learners. The third stat shows an acceleration. So the first two stats are a velocity. This is the rate of change. But the rate of change over time, the acceleration, is that 3 in 4 of those jobs have changed more from the 3 year period between 2019 and 2021 than from 2021 to 2024. This 76% represents an acceleration. So not only are things changing, but they're changing faster every, let's say, 3 or 4 years, something like that. So the natural question is, what are learners doing about this? What's happening right now? So let's take a look at what learners are doing to adapt currently. So 6 out of 10, more than half of those who are working are what we call professional learners. And if you want any of these research citations, I always put them at the bottom of the slide. So if you want to follow up and see for yourself, I encourage you to do that. There's a lot of really good information in these studies. I pulled information that supports this narrative that I'm sharing right now, but there are a lot of different stories I could have told using different facts, figures, and this is just kind of intended to be a 0 to 60. I don't want to go too far into the weeds. So let's talk about those learners. I digress. So 6 out of 10, about half of those people are what we call professional learners. What is a professional learner? So a professional learner is someone who has taken a course, a micro-credential, a professional certificate, an alternative credential, some kind of complementary or supplementary professional development and ongoing learning in the past 12 months. So this year. So half, more than half of learners have taken some kind of additional project professional development this year. And 73%, or about 3 in 4, consider themselves lifelong learners. So this isn't the first year they're going to do it. It's not the last year they're going to do it. This is a regular thing that workers are going to need to do to adapt on an ongoing basis. And about half, because I'm more of a guy who's along the lines of, okay, but does it work? About half say that their extra training helped them to advance within their current company. So these are specific, measurable, tangible outcomes associated with that professional learning for those who engage in that on an annual basis. I have a little bit here about Google Career Certificates. They publish some really compelling, some very good data, which we love, about their Google Career Certificates. And I think in terms of entry level, it's an excellent resource for anyone who's trying to understand really the second and third most popular questions, which are not only what is a micro-credential, but 2, is it any good? And 3, who else is doing this, right? Those are important questions that most people are going to ask at some point, and these are all great resources to get to the bottom of that. So again, I'm a former science teacher. I would never throw a bunch of numbers at you guys without summarizing. So number 1, the learning landscape is fluid. Adapting to new skills is no longer a choice, it's a necessity. 2 is traditional education pathways simply cannot keep up. The pace of change, that acceleration and velocity we talked about, really outstrips the ability of any conventional educational model to adapt and keep up. And that's kind of creating a really great vehicle for micro-credentials to come more into the spotlight and play a bigger role in creating those pathways that are more adaptable and more dynamic over time. We're not going to be able to get into the why behind the machinations of micro-credentials and why, but maybe a future Micro-credential Monday. So leave a comment if you have any questions. The third is learners are already adapting. So learners aren't, just letting the world pass them by. About more than half consider themselves professional learners, and more than half of those are seeing positive career, or about half are seeing positive career outcomes on the other side of that professional development learning. Last but not least, the employers need agility, and economic resilience should be the goal. So when you really boil this problem down, it's about learners and institutions and employers, and that's true. And what we're really building is a more resilient and adaptable economy, whether it be local, regional, or national, or international. The point is to make it easier for folks to connect learning experiences with some opportunity, whether it's an employment or an academic opportunity on the other side. And it makes for a better economy. When we need more nurses, we can get more nurses. When we need more, folks who drive trucks, they have a CDL, something like that, we can get more of those. And we know who they are, and they're not always coming from the traditional routes. I myself was I was an alternate route educator. Actually, I took a program my first year of teaching. I had a college degree, but I didn't have a teaching certificate. So that alternate route program helped me transition into a career in education, and it was illuminating. It was extremely valuable. Okay, let me check my comments really quick, just so I can be a good keeper here. All right, we're looking good. Very cool. Okay. So next I want to talk about the skills continuum. So this is a tool that I developed, co-developed with my good friend Martin Bean from the Bean Center. Hello, Martin, if you're watching the stream after the fact. I think right now he's also traveling, but he has a wealth of experience, and we kind of mind melded, we put our heads together, and we created this continuum. And the thing I like about it is it's not necessarily like the most detailed or comprehensive thing in the world, but what it really does well is it frames these parallel technologies along a continuum to show and illustrate and demonstrate that they are indeed related. So really, folks come into this space through micro-credentials more often than some of these other components. But when you've adopted micro-credentials, you start asking questions about skills. What skills are captured, recognized, and shared when someone earns our micro-credential? And then of those skills, where are we actually pulling them from? Are we getting them from libraries and taxonomies at the state level? Are they more workforce centric? So you kind of move into the realm of specificity as you kind of move to the left of our continuum. Now, when you take a micro-credential, think of it as an individual stepping stone, okay? One micro-credential. They're short, they're competency-based sometimes, they're project-based sometimes, they're generally assessed by experts. Okay, what happens when you start stacking these things together? Well, we call those learning pathways. Education Design Lab has micro pathways. There are a few takes on this, but ultimately they are sequential or non-sequential routes that learners take from beginning to some opportunity at the end. And learning pathways are the way that we do that. Now, as you move towards more broad implementation, you start to hit things like learning and employment records and digital wallets. This is where learners keep, and this is where employers access all of the skills, micro-credentials, and learning pathways that are demonstrated by learners and can then be used as currency towards those opportunities that we discussed. So the skills continuum frames this whole conversation, kind of boils it down to these 5 components. It's not the most comprehensive thing in the world. The purpose of this is to get the conversation started. And you'd be surprised, this does a really great job facilitating conversations for project planning purposes, for vocabulary purposes, getting everybody on the same page purposes, and it's Creative Commons. So if you want to use this, it's on our website. You can always reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to share this with you. Okay, next let's talk about vocabulary. But first, I'm going to check the comments. So let's check these comments. Okay, we have people logged into the stream. Thank you guys for logging in. I really appreciate it. We can always do more marketing and outreach and stuff like that, but frankly, I'm a business owner and I have other things going on. So I try my best to let people know what's going on, but we're still kind of, you have to be in the know phase. So, all right, let's pivot over to our vocabulary here. So this is going to be the focus of our conversation. I wanted to share the definitive glossary with you guys today and just unpack the why behind the glossary. How did we get to that? So we already talked about the problem at a high level, but one of the big problems that is associated with that is that we're all kind of speaking different languages and that there's no open referenceable source of truth. And this can be a real challenge, especially when you're trying to get people on the same page. You're using words like micro-credentials with a hyphen or without a hyphen. You're using words like micro-certifications, digital badges, digital credentials, alternative credentials, short courses, LERs, micro-degrees, professional certificates. This is just like a few things that came off the top of my head, and there's so much confusion because imagine that we're not speaking the same language, but we're all trying to get to some of the same places. So the Rosetta Stone came to mind. It's this like source of truth where no matter what language you can speak, you can suddenly have a conversation with someone across the aisle that's going to benefit you and your unique community of learners. So what did we do? Here's what we did about it. We published our glossary, and actually, I didn't always live in Dallas. I actually moved to Dallas from New York City. I love the New York City public library system, so we put, I think this is, forget the Lions' names. They both have names. My wife is going to kill me. She's a librarian. She was a librarian in New York. She's going to, it's going to bother me. Anyways, the Lions have names. So we put the Lions on the front, love the Schwartzman building. And the purpose is that this is a community place where folks can contribute new definitions and they can add to existing definitions, or maybe they can point, gaps or access it whenever they want. We do not charge for this. This is just a good housekeeping thing that is a source of truth for everybody. So here I pulled some definitions from our glossary. And, come to think of it, I don't know how many people at this One Ed Tech conference are here for the first time. That's what I usually do during my sessions. This is your first time. And usually about half of people raise their hands when I do kind of public appearances. So I guess you can think of this as a little primer for the rest of the event. So if you're new to this space, This can be a really valuable kind of introductory 0 to 60, and the glossary is highly bookmarkable. So if you're in a conversation and someone throws around a word like metadata, and you're like, what is metadata? Well, that's what the glossary is for. Just kind of find it. It's user friendly. But I pulled a couple of our most popular definitions out. So when we're talking about skills, what is a skill? Skill based, skills hiring, skills this. Skills at their most basic, when you distill it down, they are the fundamental basic units that define an economy. So remember that economic resilience we talked about. Skills are supplied by or demonstrated by learners, so they're the suppliers of the skills. Those skills are assessed and verified by subject matter experts. So you don't just say, I can do this, and then someone else has to take your word for it. There needs to be some assessment. Hopefully, it's more rigorous. And then finally, those skills are demanded by or needed by, consumed by employers and other recognizers of those skills in pursuit of their specific academic and business goals. And what's nice about skills is that everybody speaks the language of skills. You don't need to know what a micro-credential is to know what a skill is. Most people know what a skill is. This is a great entry point for conversations and why it's one of our most popular definitions in the glossary. Notice, I could have defined this a million different ways. The purpose of the glossary is about micro-credentials and these sorts of things. So all the definitions kind of have that kind of flavor, which brings me to the number one question people ask: what is a micro-credential? So this is a two-parter that we pulled from Deakin University and UNESCO. We like this definition because it's a two-parter. Micro-credentials are difficult to define because there are 26 right now working global definitions of what a micro-credential is. So what we did was we pulled all those definitions together and we teased these two components out, which does the best job of holistically defining a micro-credential. So the first part is that a micro-credential is a certification of assessed learning that is additional, alternate, complementary to, or a formal component of a formal qualification. So this can sit as a supplement or a complement to an existing credential or an existing professional development experience. And some micro-credentials do stand on their own, but ultimately they complement some other qualification that lends itself towards being eligible for a particular career opportunity. You don't just put collaboration on your resume and people go, oh, you're collaborative. You got that one thing. There are very few jobs in the economy that require only one skill, which is why this is complementary above all. Okay, second part of the definition. Ownership of the micro-credential is exclusive to the earner. So this is different. They can be shared, are portable, and may be combined into larger credentials or qualifications. That's that stackability that people talk about. So let's break this down. First part of the definition. A micro-credential is a certification of assessed learning that is additional, alternate, complementary to, or a formal component of a formal qualification. All this is saying is that they're short, focused, flexible, and accessible, rigorous. They are assessed. The skills and competencies associated with that micro-credential are generally assessed by an expert, someone who knows what they're talking about, someone who an employer could trust when they certify that some individual has some skill. The third is that they're aligned. So micro-credentials are generally aligned with the needs of outside stakeholders, which can include employers and folks from industry, but they can also include institutional stakeholders or non-traditional program provider stakeholders. There's no reason why. Often micro-credentials are kind of seen in like an institutional sense, like a college thing, or, but it's not exclusive to that. That's one way that a micro-credential gets currency. And there are some fantastic institutional implementations of micro-credentials, but the space is pretty big and it's growing all the time. And there are a lot of different use cases. All right, the second part of the definition. Ownership of the micro-credential is exclusive to the earner. They can be shared, are portable, and may be combined into larger credentials or qualifications, AKA they are stackable. So micro-credentials as a technology are very unique in the sense that they're portable. You can take them from point A and you can move them over to system B and you can upload them with fidelity. They'll keep all of your information where it was. There's no sealed transcripts with that kind of thing. They're portable. They're designed to move between systems, including locally on your own machine. You can download them and they don't have to live online at all if you want. The second piece is that they're interoperable. So I'm at the One Ed Tech Digital Credential Summit. So thanks to One Ed Tech and folks like One Ed Tech and all the amazing engineers and systems people that work with them. I'm not going to say any names out loud because as soon as I start naming names, like this is going to be too long. So all I'm going to say is that there are amazing people who really have dedicated the last 10 years of their life or more to making sure that as many systems as possible adopt this technology so that when I upload my micro-credential, from one platform to another, it's not like trying to get pictures off of Facebook. Like those closed gardens, that is not micro-credentials. So it's just one of those things. All right, the third is that they're verifiable. So because they live online for the most part, proof and evidence of their success lives online. They're verifiable. Specifically, they're independently verifiable. And there's tools out there. So when I walk in the door and I say, this is my credential, an employer can check right then and there. Yes, this is his. This is what he did to get it. And this is who issued it. Those are the three main buckets of information that micro-credentials carry. And now we're going to go into hyperspeed because we only have a few minutes. Okay, micro-credentials and digital badges. Big question. What's the difference? So I like to apply what's called the rectangle rule, and we'll talk about that. But micro-credentials are generally higher stakes. They have more currency. They're assessed, so they're generally more rigorous. They're also shareable and stackable. Digital badges, on the other hand, digital badge is a more general term for some kinds of micro-credentials. And when a micro-credential is awarded, the thing that lives online is a digital badge. And it's based on the open badge specification or the verifiable credential spec or something like that. But generally, when you call something a digital badge, it's something that you might get at a conference like this. Thanks for coming, participation. It's not assessed, right? So there's lower stakes, less currency, it's a little less rigorous, but digital badges, because micro-credentials are also kind of embodied by digital badges, they're shareable and stackable. So they do share some characteristics. And like I said, when in doubt, recall the rectangle rule. So a rectangle is a quadrilateral or a four-sided polygon with all four angles are right angles. Okay, so a square is a specific kind of quadrilateral where all four angles are right angles and all four sides of the same length. Therefore, all micro-credentials are digital badges, but not all digital badges are micro-credentials because micro-credentials are like squares. You have to be more specific. They're assessed, they're, all those things that we mentioned. So recall the rectangle rule. Okay, learning pathways. So learning pathways, like we said, are a structured and sequenced set of educational experiences that are designed to enable learners to acquire a set of skills or competencies. And the idea is that each step of the pathway is intentionally crafted to take learners from a learning experience to some opportunity on the other side. Again, these are just some of our most popular definitions, by the way. Okay, lastly, what is metadata? I've used the word metadata, and I would never use that word without defining it. Metadata is the information that's baked directly into the digital badge. So whether it's a participant award or a more high stakes micro-credential, metadata is the information that's baked in. Think you upload a photo to Facebook and it knows what date you took the photo. How does it know that? Because the date is baked into the photo as metadata, and Facebook can read that. Micro-credentials and digital badges work much the same way. So I'm actually not going to cover the who today. These are bonus slides. So if you want to download the slides or you want to view the stream after and just pause it or something like that, I put these in here because the who is also very, very important. Generally, ecosystems consist of earners or learners, issuers, providers, and employers or recognizers, folks that add currency. And there's a relationship between these folks, including members of government, policy writers who kind of create the rules of the road. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that over half of employers prioritize candidates with superior soft skills or durable skills, not just the technical skills, but the soft skills. And this is a point that sometimes is lost on some people. Okay, I put some questions in here, but frankly, we're out of time. So I want to thank you very, very much. My name is Robert Bajer, and I'm going to switch my screen here a little bit. My name is Robert Bajer. This has been a real joy, a little bit of an experiment. Hello, Daniel. Hey, Daniel. He's in Alaska. I just am overjoyed by you guys joining me, and I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I'm watching the clock. It's 1:31. thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate all the feedback that I've gotten. I got married last month. A bunch of you guys came and congratulated me on LinkedIn. I am so grateful. And if you see me at the One Ed Tech conference, feel free to stop me and say hi. I adore talking to everybody. I'm here for you guys, so feel free to wrangle me if you see me. And thank you so much for coming to the stream. All of the resources for this stream I'm going to put online. So after the conference is over, I'm going to upload all this stuff online. It's automatically going to upload, but I'm going to just make sure everyone has it. I'll post something on LinkedIn. Thank you, thank you, thank you for attending. And I'll see you during the next Micro-credential Monday, which is the first Monday of April, right? Because we're in March. So let's see when that's going to be. April, it's going to be May. No, sorry. It's going to be April, April 1st. Okay. April Fool's Day. It's not a joke. That's when we're doing the next one. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I adore all of you, and I'll see you in the next one.